Good evening. Even though I'm not really sure who Alex Cross is or what murder he solves, my dad loves the author James Patterson, so I thought I might open with one of his quotations. I don't smile as much as I should, even though I smile inside a lot. You might be wondering why there's a dad in a funny-looking bucket hat constantly yelling at the refs during an NBA football game, or who the guy in scrubs screaming, "Move your feet, Jackson," is during NBA lacrosse games. Trust me, I've tried to tell him, "Let me play. Don't let me hear you from the sidelines, Dad," many times. It really is just part of his nature. Maybe his appreciation for sports lies in his diehard worship of Boston sports teams, like the Red Sox and Patriots. Even after over 30 years in Nashville, there's still every bit of Northern Yankee in him. This last Super Bowl is no exception. But no, he has not tried to pack the cat and have it yad anywhere around Nashville. Nevertheless, anyone can hear his deep Bostonian accent from a mile away. It's safe to say it's just who he is. Whether you're calling him Paul, Polly Boy, or Dr. Abby, he's probably prone to forgetting your name and coming over to ask me, "Is this one of your friends?" Or, "Who is this again?" After almost 6 years at NBA, he's learned to let me introduce a friend so he can fully grasp someone's name before speaking to them. Otherwise, he'll greet you with a "dude" and shake your hand, hoping that it'll make up for his not knowing. Apart from his funny moments, he has always been an integral part of the community, dedicated to providing help and attention in the medical field, even when he's not on call. I can remember many of my friends getting stitches on the kitchen table as just one of the many times he's been called into action. Waking up at 4:30 every first Sunday of the month to park cars at Brentwood Baptist Church shows how committed he is to serving others and how much he enjoys, or so he says, early mornings. My dad has always been by my side since the first time he signed me up to play organized sports. Whether it was WNSL baseball or basketball, my dad has thoroughly supported my decisions. This support, however, became an issue when senior year came upon me. Having played hockey, soccer, and lacrosse in college, my dad wanted me to follow him in adopting the love of the game. After deciding not to pursue football at the Division III level, I told my dad, "It's just not for me, but I promise I'll always remember the teammates and friendships I made playing sports. It's taught me so much." And as my career of sports comes to a close at NBA, I thank him every day for helping me find what I love in sports: camaraderie and competition. After over 35 years in the medical field, my dad never thought that he would have to be the patient. The tables were turned. An unexpected heart attack early in the morning last February sent shockwaves throughout my family. I never grasped the fragility and spontaneity of life quite like that moment. It made me realize that the memories, moments, and fun times we had shared in the past might have vanished in an instant. While it feels like it occurred so recently, the uncertainty of another moment like his heart attack scares me every day. The first thing he said when I saw him in the recovery center was, "I'll never be able to eat French fries ever again," all with both a smile and concern growing on his face. Still, it is almost as if he played off the tragedy like a routine doctor's visit, returning to work essentially a week after. He's one resilient guy. Dad, while my 19 years have seemed to fly by, I will always cherish what makes you more than just my dad, why you are such a special person. I'll never be able to thank you enough for all the sacrifices, the late nights, early mornings, and even the Brugger's Bagels runs. The times we've spent traveling together for lacrosse tournaments or seeing colleges seem like many years ago now. I'll always love and remember how you pick me up when I'm upset and encourage me to go with the flow and give it my best always. The James Patterson quotation with which I began this speech reminds me that you always give me cause and reason to smile both inwardly and outwardly. Thank you for everything and living every day to its fullest. I love you.
So I remember coming to my first father-son dinner. My brother and I were sitting there. We heard all these amazing speeches, and my dad looked at us and he said to us, "One of you better give me a speech when you're a senior." You know, my brother and I promptly replied, "But Dad, to have a speech given about you, you gotta be important." So I have this theory that my father's been waiting my entire NBA career to have this speech given. He kind of noticed that the more involved you are in NBA, the more likely you are to have this speech given about you. And pretty soon after that first father-son dinner, I'm pretty sure he started to come to NBA and work out in the mornings just to work his way up the NBA totem pole. But the funny thing is, this speech has absolutely nothing to do with what he's done at NBA, but rather me just going and asking Mr. Joya. So Dad, just remember, you're welcome, and you did ask for this. So all my life, I've been told that I look and act exactly like my father. And you know, when people were looking at me, I would say, thank you, that's a really nice compliment, but then when people weren't looking, I'd feel the back of my head and make sure I didn't have a bald spot. And I mean, this really isn't a joke because I was concerned. I did research, and it turns out the genetics that are in your hair come mainly from the X chromosome, and all my mother's brothers have good hair, so I should be fine. But I will admit, we do have some similar qualities. My mother honestly believes my father has emotionally scarred me. Until about 2 months ago, I maybe hugged my father 3 times in my life. But like recently, we've been hugging each other a lot more, and it's not like they're really great hugs. They're kind of awkward and forced, which really only means one thing. It's that my mother had to have said something to him. Now, she thinks this because my father is kind of ruthless. I remember after the state championship game my junior year, I threw an interception to end the game, pretty much lose it. And my father was really nice to me that night. He's like, I'm really proud of you, you played a great game. But then I came down the next morning, and the first thing he said to me was, Ty, I just got to ask, what happened on that play? You know, that wasn't a big deal. That was fine. Like, that's a normal question. And then we got to church the next day, and people were like, Ty, you played a really good game. And my dad intervened immediately. It's like, well, if you threw a little less to the other team, it would have been even better. So my friends have even, seen this ruthless quality. I will never forget the 10-year-old McLean Portis coming into my car, and my dad immediately asking him, are you comfortable with nudity? Now, there is context that makes it a lot less creepy. But I mean, McLean did stutter through a really awkward answer, which made me know he was not comfortable with nudity, so. See, the funny thing about it is, these are all things I would say. Like, just ask Palmer Toms. I've mentioned him in every single speech I've given at NBA, just because I know he's uncomfortable. See, but I love the way my dad is because he's funny. I enjoy being around him, and he makes me a whole lot tougher too. And he shows me not to take myself too seriously. Because if he's making jokes about it, it's probably going to be okay. See, don't let this sarcastic and sometimes unempathetic humor fool you. My father really cares for me, and he's one of the most caring people I know. He shows this care because he just gets so excited for me. My father tries to tell me he was good at basketball and baseball when he was my age, but he wasn't. He was, however, pretty good at baseball, and he was a decent pitcher. And when he found out this year that I was going to be pitching, he was so excited. I mean, he went out and bought a catcher's mitt, and he was asking me every day to go practice with him. And now I didn't go practice with him. And he told me, he said, Ty, you're expecting to go out there your first game and magically be good at pitching, and I promise you that's not going to happen. You know, my dad's usually right. I haven't told you this, but I did pitch the last inning of the Brentwood scrimmage, and I did terrible. You were right. I mean, I can honestly say the past 3 months at my house, I have probably gotten in more fights with my dad than I ever have in my life. You see, I got deferred from MIT in December, but he told me to think about it and make sure that's really what I wanted to do. I thought about it, I told him that it was. So my father sat down, he wrote out a plan. He wrote out a plan that contained me sending multiple emails, sending several letters, and even reading books about engineering. And we fought because a lot of these things I was not comfortable doing. I did not want to send out letters to professors that I didn't know very well. And he would say to me, it may be unnecessary, but I don't want you looking back wishing you had done more. And I hear back from MIT tomorrow, and I can honestly say, Dad, no matter what happens, I know I did everything I could. It's really amazing how much he cares about me. See, a lot of people aren't as lucky as I am. This book right here, my dad made this for me. This has every single game that I played in my senior year, has pictures, has a summary of every game that I played in, has newspaper articles, has pictures of other players I played against so I can remember playing against them. And my dad made it all. He said he made it for me because he knows one day it'll mean a lot to me, and I'll be able to show my kids and show them who I am and who I was. So my father spent countless hours creating this book that I'm going to appreciate in the future. That's someone who cares. That's someone who loves me more than I could possibly deserve. See, I'm so unbelievably lucky to have a dad like I do. One that can make me laugh, one that can make me understand not to take myself too seriously. Because, when he's making jokes about throwing interceptions or doing other stuff like that, that's a point where I could be at my lowest. And when he's making jokes about it, that means everything's going to be okay. But honestly, most importantly, I'm so lucky to have a father that cares about me so much. I thank God every day for what I have. Dad, I know I don't say this very often, but I love you, and one day I want to be just like you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reese Rutherford, and today I'd like to talk to you about my father, Rivers Rutherford. Like many of the seniors who have spoken in the past about their fathers, my dad did not know I was speaking today. We're talking about the same man who had to excuse himself from my sister's 18th birthday dinner and walk out of a restaurant because he could not stop crying about his baby girl growing up. So good luck, Dad. My dad has a huge head, explaining why my head is so big, obviously. Thank you for that as well. But his head's looking abnormally large today, so I'm going to begin with a few jokes at my father's expense. In case any of you didn't know, my dad's a songwriter, so actually most of you have probably never heard of him. Sometimes my dad will look at me and go, "You're so lucky you look like me." And don't get me wrong, my dad is a good-looking guy, but am I going to have white hair by the age 35? When I was in second grade at Percy Priest, my dad came to pick me up from school, which was a rare occasion because he'd usually be working. He got out of the car, and a girl in my class saw me looking out about the window. She took one look at him and said, "Is that your granddaddy?" But one of the great things about his having white hair is that it's really easy to spot him in large crowds. I have pretty bad ADHD, but it is nothing compared to my dad's attention disorder. If you try to talk to him while he's playing piano, he won't answer you until the 10th time you have said his name, if you're lucky. He'll look at you and smile, but he will continue playing until he's either finished the song or until you are yelling in his face. My dad knows so many people, so anywhere he goes, he will see someone he knows. And when he ends up running into someone he knows, it becomes almost impossible for me to get him to stop talking. We could be in a Kroger, and my dad will see some attendant that served us over a week ago, and lo and behold, what should have been a smile and a quiet "hey" could turn into an hour-long conversation about how their week has been. All jokes aside, my dad is the coolest guy I know, and is always and will always be my number one role model. He is a fantastic musician and has always supported me and encouraged me to write and practice music. Whether it be learning a new song on guitar, homework, or sports, my dad always has help and advice to offer. Musically, he is my number one influence. I've been watching him perform since I was born, and have never been disappointed by one of his shows. He's amicable, he's charismatic, he's funny, and he can play the hell out of a guitar. He also has supported me athletically through the years, no matter what sport I'm in. When I played baseball, he used to catch for me when I needed to practice pitching, even though the last thing he probably wanted to do at the time was squat down and catch a ball coming from an inexperienced kid trying to throw the ball as hard as he could. He just wanted to spend time with me. When I wrestled, my dad was at all of my matches and always gave me tips on how to improve, even if he had no idea what he was talking about. Part of his job is traveling around the country playing shows, but he's done his absolute best to be at every game and concert I've ever had, and he hates when he misses one. We have watched innumerable movies together, played countless songs, and competed in way too many ping pong games. He loves helping me record songs and never hesitates to ask me to sing a demo for him. He loves taking my brother and I hunting and always uses our hunting trips as opportunities to teach us about life. He has taught me so many lessons that I use now and will continue to use for the rest of my life. To this day, if I forget to say yes sir, yes ma'am to an adult, he will correct me on the spot in front of the person. He always tells me to do what he says and not what he does because he doesn't want me to make the same mistakes that he made when he was my age. When I turned 13, my dad told me to always assume one thing from here on out, and that was that he is a genius and I am a dumbass. He knew, of course, having been a teenager himself, that I might become more difficult and argumentative in the near future. I thought to myself, you know what? That assumption's going to be pretty easy because my dad is one of the smartest people I know. It has not been easy, I can tell you that. He also taught me what a real man is. A real man rejects passivity, accepts responsibility, leads courageously, and expects God's greater reward. He always tells me his main goal is to make me the best Reese I can be. I've not always behaved the way I'm supposed to, and I've been quite a handful for my dad. I've caused a good amount of turmoil and stress in our house, and I do not always exemplify the characteristics of a real man. But my father has never given up on me and continues to encourage me no matter how many times I disrespect or disobey him. He is always pushing me to do better without being oppressive. I do not express my gratitude often enough for what he has done for me, and I'm truly sorry for that. He has provided my siblings and I with everything we need in life to succeed, and has asked for no thanks in return. He gets angry and yells like any other dad, but he always follows it up by telling me how much he loves me and how proud of me he is, no matter what I do. I don't remember a day in my life that my dad hasn't told me he loves me. He treats everyone with respect, and I have never seen him belittle anyone. He is filled with kindness, generosity, and the love that he has for his friends and family is unconditional. I don't know how to express how grateful I am for you and for what you have sacrificed for me. I love you, Dad. I'd like to invite Will Trotman up here, and we're going to sing a song that my dad wrote that really explains him as a person. Never was the biggest or the fastest guy. I never hit a home run when the game was tied. I knew from an early age I wasn't gonna be a doctor or the CEO of anything. So I sang Gentle on my mind, and I played Stairway to Heaven at least 1,000,000 times. I tried to stand out from the crowd, but most times I just struck out at the plate. So I sang Wasn't cool enough to be a ladies' man. It took me forever just to hold her hand. The first time we kissed, she whispered, "I love you." But I wasn't brave enough to say I loved her too. So I sang, "You are so beautiful to me," and I played and poured my heart out with those strings. I loved her with everything, but I couldn't think of anything to say. And so I sang. No one believed in me like my old man. He broke down and bought me my first Fender Strat. When the angels called him home, my sister asked if I would speak, but there were no words to say how much he meant to me. So I sang, "It is well with my soul," and I played, "I'm so tired of being alone," 'cause those were Daddy's favorite songs, and what I thought would take too long to say. So I sang.
So, I have to be honest. I was thinking for several weeks about what I wanted to say about my father, but I struggled to find the right words. My father's influence on my life has been greater than even I truly understand, and there are so many thoughts that I could share with the audience here tonight that it was just too hard to pinpoint one singular event or topic. I could talk about his incredible sense of awareness, where he is somehow able to magically know exactly what time it is without even looking at a watch. Or maybe the ridiculous nature in which he searches for pennies in a parking lot before we head to our car, even if it's raining outside. I could even talk about the humorous moments, like the time he went down a one-way street in Italy, nearly got us killed, and got a hefty fine from the Italian police about a month later. These struggles caused me to create multiple speeches that I believed were just not good enough. I wanted to make you proud. Through these confusing times, though, I looked back to something you have told me multiple times. A handwritten letter is one of the most powerful items you can give someone. So, here's a letter to you, Dad. Dear David Dill, as I have grown up, the understanding of being a father, to me, has been both conventional and inspirational. When someone would ask me what my father meant to me, I would respond with the usual answer: he is someone who provides for the family and cares about us all very much. Yet over the last few years, that generic explanation has become much more complicated. The meaning of fatherhood goes further than the surface thoughts of being a provider. Dad, you have truly been a role model for me and someone I aspire to be like every single day. You have shown me how to love and care for others through your devotion to Christ and our church. By driving homeless women to and from church every Sunday morning, I have been exposed to the spirit of giving my time and care and sacrifice to others who may be less fortunate. Dad, you have displayed your determination towards our family by making it a habit of yours to be at every single sporting event or music event I have participated in. Even if that means canceling an important meeting or cutting one short, similar to what you did to be here tonight. I've been given the honor to call you my dad, a gift that is worth more than any material object because it provides me with security and strength to go and take on anything. Through times of hardship or moments of success, you have taught me the lesson of standing firm in your beliefs and always being up for the challenge. Continuing along this strain of thought, your commitment to bringing together communities, as evident from your participation with Kids Across America, an organization that brings young children from inner cities to summer camps, as well as your ongoing profession in the medical field that seeks to bring healthcare and cure diseases from people of all different backgrounds and economic abilities. A quality and sense of compassion that gravitates everyone you meet towards you. Even my friends would rather hang out with you than with me. Whenever they come over to our home, instead of hanging out with me, they just take any food we have, sit down on the couch, and talk with you for what seems like hours on end. This feeling of importance you give towards others reveals why you have had such an incredible impact on my life. You make me feel important and cared for. I hope to take what I've learned from you and apply those lessons to my own life for years to come. And with any luck, I'll be able to be half the man you are. You once said to me that valuing the small details in life, the ones that do not always appear at first glance, as well as valuing what people do for others, will carry me a long way. Well, I'm here to tell you that for the better part of 18 years I've been on this planet, I've not valued you or your wisdom enough. These last few years have reminded me just how significant you have been in my life, and I hope to no longer devalue your lessons or insights. I stand before you today as a young man who cannot be any prouder to call you my father. I cannot ask for a better dad. I'm not completely sure as to what I will do without you next year, by not being able to call you and talk about the incredible play that just happened in the NBA game, or debate political topics with you every Sunday morning. What I do know is that I will be able to take all that you have taught me about being caring, and being humble, and being compassionate will inspire me wherever I go. I can rest assured knowing that you will be right there by my side forever, regardless of time or place. I love you, Dad. With all my love and affection, your grateful son, Watson Dill.
So I'm just going to let everyone file out. My dad also did not know I was speaking today, and I'm sure he's absolutely appalled that not only did I not do a good job of brushing my hair, but I didn't do a good job of brushing my hair, and I'm speaking tonight. And so I can see the concerned look on his face already. Now, even at 61, Wade Cowan certainly is still one of the boys. To this day, he still laces up his skates and plays hockey every Sunday with the local men's league. He still chases the dog around the front yard. He still goes to Coach Vernaccio's boot camp, 6 a.m. twice a week. Heck, if I asked him, he'd probably still go play football with my brother Robert and me in the living room as we used to do. The man does not stop, even if it means pushing the boundaries. For example, years ago, my brother and I wanted to play kickball with my dad in the front yard. Now, being a hockey player and a former high school football player, an athlete certainly, my dad agreed to play. You know, what could possibly go wrong? You may see where I'm going with this story, because one thing led to another, and he's lying on the grass with a dislocated kneecap. Now, thank God for our neighbor, who, after trying several times to push the kneecap the way it's not supposed to go, finally figured out how to pop it back and get my dad walking again within minutes. My dad literally didn't miss a beat. Now, not only was he on the couch a few minutes later making jokes, he refused to go to the hospital, and he kept skating every Sunday as if nothing had ever happened. His stick-to-itiveness, at least in this situation, has taught me one important lesson, if not anything else. You're never too old unless you're dead. Certainly a wise thought for the future. Now, I genuinely do appreciate his efforts to stay in shape, and in particular his desire to stay on the ice playing hockey. Little has meant more to my brother and I, to me and my brother, than being able to play with him throughout the years, especially at the NBA alumni game the past few years, and particularly a few months ago during our last year of high school hockey. My dad is actually the reason I started playing hockey, if you can believe that. He's been playing his entire life. So long, he was actually on Vanderbilt's first ever hockey team. So naturally, by the time Robert and I could walk, we had many sticks in our hands, and we were playing hockey in our house's hallways. Then one day, my dad comes home from a game and shouts at my mom, "Good news. It's not too late for the boys to sign up to start playing." We were 6 years old. Now, granted, we've been playing ever since, and even though my mom was very concerned, we're still alive. Some people say that I am Wade Cowan. Now, I personally don't see it, but I will admit the evidence against me is fairly conclusive. I play hockey, he plays hockey. I go to NBA, he went to NBA. My last name is Cowan, and sure enough, his last name is Cowan as well. Now, I don't look like my dad. My brother got those genes. So I think when people say that I am my dad, they're probably either referring to mock trial or my sense of humor. Now, my dad is a lawyer, and so when he was asked about 30 years ago to coach Father Ryan's mock trial team, he readily agreed. Almost immediately, he realized his true calling and came over to the NBA side. And he's coached the NBA team for the last 25 or so years. So naturally, because he has two sons at NBA, one of them was going to end up on the mock trial team. I think the deciding factor was that I was willing to part my hair for the competitions, while Robert would not budge. So therein lies the connection. I'm a mock trial lawyer. He's a real lawyer. I part my hair a few times a year. He also has parted hair. The parallels are fairly clear. Now, of course, I wouldn't be Wade Cowan without my sense of humor. Stale in-the-moment jokes are really what we shoot for. I really did try to think of some examples, but I'm just not here to embarrass myself. But I'm sure you can use your imagination. We've all heard the dad jokes. That's what we shoot for. And so I'm sure you can envision a quip at the dinner table, followed by the "you were just like your father" from my mom. And, I guess I am. It's probably clear now, and my friends will know this especially, why I joke that everything I do is because of my dad. I mean, hockey and mock trial are probably the two activities that define me the most. But of course, I'm more than that. And under his guidance, I have the tools to lead in whatever endeavor I decide to take on. I'm proud to be compared to my dad. It means I resemble a passionate, dedicated, and hardworking man, a true leader in every sense of the word. His presence at every one of our hockey games, his guidance at every mock trial competition, and his decision to risk his knees to play kickball in the front yard with his two sons has taught me how to be a father when that time comes, a teacher, and a learner. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my dad's humility. He never seeks the limelight. He works to help others, and he rejoices in other people's successes. My dad has a gentleness and a goodness about him that, frankly, is rare today. And I've talked to countless other mock trial students, my friends, faculty at MBA who have met him, who would wholeheartedly agree. I could not be more proud to have a father so worthy of this praise. I have no idea where I'll end up, but wherever I am next year and the years to come, I'm going to miss the Saturday night Preds games, the recaps of our hockey games and post-game conversations, and the nighttime family gatherings to pet the dog on the bed. I'm going to miss you. But I want to thank you for everything that you've done for me for the past 18 years and everything that you'll do in the future. Someday I hope to be half the man that you are. And so for everything that you've done for me, as your grandfather used to say, much obliged. I love you.
Good evening. In the past, I've come to this event with my advisor, Mr. Jody Johnson. So I wanted to begin by thanking him for his commitment to coming to this event and with me to making sure I was comfortable and welcome. So thank you for that. With that being said, this evening has always been a difficult night for me. To listen to seniors talk about their dads and sit and watch fellow students with their fathers has always been a little sad. Tonight, however, I have the privilege of telling my story. I now realize that this community of respect and love for a father has actually fostered and developed me into the man I am today. I plan on giving this speech in tribute to my wonderful mom who is here tonight and also highlight my dad and his wonderful accomplishments. My mom has shown me the depth of love capacity and what it's like to live through an abundance of pain, hell, and difficulties while raising 3 young boys. So, my father, Tony Hall, was 52 when he passed away, leaving behind 3 sons, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 9-year-old. My father had been diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis of both lungs when I was 3 years old. For those in the crowd who knew my father, most of us can agree that he was one of the most outgoing, sociable, and charismatic people you've ever met. He was a stranger to no one. He never failed to start up a conversation with a random person in a store and brag on either one of my brothers or myself, saying things like, "Look at him, he's 6'1", 270, and he's only 13. I'm actually currently 6'1" and weigh 270 pounds, so exaggeration was his game always. He also loved to take us on these late night panther and alligator hunts, as he called them, when we traveled to Florida. He'd go out on this golf cart and drive us around looking for alligators and panthers, and I don't know about you, Ian, but I know I never saw an alligator and definitely didn't see a panther. And it's all right because he just wanted to spend as much time with us as he could. The only time I actually did see an actual alligator in Florida was the afternoon my dad took us all out to a golf course. And he had called earlier and made sure that an alligator would be in one of the ponds. And sure enough, when we arrived at the course, there's a big alligator visible in the pond. And the golf course manager told us that there were a few more in there too, they were just underwater. So my dad told us to throw some rocks or sand at it naturally. So I took my throw, but of course nothing happened. But my much less intelligent brother Ian decided to throw some rocks at the alligator, but never actually let go of the rocks and finds himself somersaulting into the pond with who knows how many alligators. Despite his then ill condition, my father dived into the pond, grabbed Ian, tossed him up onto the bank in less than a second. And even though that's a perfect story to highlight Ian's stupidity, it's also been an example of my dad's love for us, as I'm sure most all dads in here would do the same for their sons. Maybe. Tony Hall was my greatest teacher, never failing to teach me life lessons that he had learned throughout his years of adversity and struggle. Only 2 years after his double lung transplant, my father returned to work. It took him 2 hours just to dress himself. He'd get dressed, take the rainbow of medicines he required just to be alive, grabbed his oxygen tank, and made his way to the Titan Stadium where he worked. Watching him go through all that struggle just to go to work meant the world to me. I told him one time that I was proud of him, and he just started to cry. The love that my dad had for his family was undeniable. I didn't truly appreciate his love for me until he passed away. After a loss in the family like that, one notices things that aren't always the most obvious. The silence was one thing that I noticed most. After he died, all those machines that were constantly keeping him on and keeping him alive were now off, and the house was actually quiet for the first time in 8 years. His constant radiation of love for his family was another one of those things that I'd grown used to my whole life. And when it's gone, it's hard not to notice the emptiness. I remember the day when my dad died. I remember the constant flow of people walking in and out of my house that day. I remember my parents leaving to fly or drive all the way to the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio for his regular doctor's appointments. I remember some of my closest friends not leaving my side for weeks after he died. I remember his life lessons that he continually taught my brothers and I. I remember the last time I saw his face before they closed the casket. But out of everything I remember through the entirety of my dad's illness was my mom and her demonstration of genuine care for someone else that I can now most vividly see and celebrate. My mom was working and still does work as a full-time physician, returned home each day to a sick husband that had been diagnosed with chronic rejection a couple years after his transplant. And on top of it all, she was parenting 3 young boys all at the same time. She jokingly says stuff like, y'all don't appreciate me enough and y'all don't love me enough, and she's absolutely correct. I simply am not capable of appreciating my mom to the extent she deserves. For all she has done for my brothers and me, what she has gone through with my father, what she has done for her patients all across Nashville, I cannot thank you enough, Mom. My mom would come home, and this is in the later phase of my dad's illness, and she would give him a full dialysis treatment from the machine that she bought and put in the house, and spent days training just to operate the equipment specifically so my dad wouldn't have to go into a clinic to receive his treatment. I can stand up here today and say that I've seen the extent to which love for someone can go. So I thank you, Mom, for showing me how true the love is that you embody. And I know that I'll be able to take that unconditional love into the world with me one day and provide it for a family of my own. The last thing I'm going to say is this. To all my classmates, friends, and fellow MBA students, please appreciate your fathers, your mothers, and your family. They love you. The love that they have provided for us our whole lives goes deeper and further than we can ever imagine until we have kids of our own one day. So enjoy what they're giving you now and don't wait till it's gone to see it. Thank you.